and welcome to class number 2. What am I offering and will it work? Remember what we've established. Let's review what we took out of what we've done already. Our first module is all about asking the question of being an entrepreneur and why you are doing what you do, and the objectives for this module are going to be taking it much deeper. Let's review first the purpose of the program. The next slide. The purpose of the SET program is, and we're going to be saying this to every class, and the first purpose is to shift and accelerate the launch of your business, and then how to be a successful entrepreneur and have a successful company. They're different, and you're going to see this as we take the course together. The next slide is this is essentially showing you how the SET program is broken into these three circles. Right now we're focusing on the Ready circle, which is the first class that we took. Class 1 was your vision, and now we're talking about what are you offering and will it work? And then the third part of Ready is it sustainable? We're going to be doing that in class number 3. Then we go to classes 4 through, I don't know, 7 or 8, maybe 9, which will be the SET circle, and it'll be toggling a little bit back and forth between SET and Go. And then the last 3 classes or so are going to be the Go circle. It's going to be working all together like that. Okay, so the objectives for today, the next slide, are threefold. It's a very busy today in class. And the first section is learning how to screen for great ideas and how you're going to make that happen in your business. And the second is discover the best way to define your product or your service if you have a service-based company. And then lastly, we're going to start to go into financials with you, the various most important financial components you're going to need to know to build your business. We're going to cover a lot today, and it's, again, iterative learning, which means that each time we go deeper with you on each of these topics, and then they constantly work together. So finance, team building, marketing, sustainability, they all work together. So we're going to introduce them, bring them together, introduce them deeper, bring them together, and so on. So today in class 2, we're going even deeper with you in reviewing these moving parts for you. Okay, so that said, let's start the class and talk about slide 5. What is the pain? The pain of your customer. Remember when we were, once you have an idea of your why, essentially, you're now ready for your what. So in class 1, we were talking about why you do what you do. Today we're going to talk about, well, what do you do to deal with that why? So to start that conversation, if you will, we need a pain that your business is addressing. So what that means is your target customer, and we'll explain what that means in a moment, but essentially your customers, what are their challenges, what are their longings, what do they regret, what do they wish they were doing? Those are things that your customers have that you have the solution to. So what that means is, and this is, by the way, in your entrepreneur manual, EM number 2, page 1, the first question, which is, what is the pain? So when you see that question, you know, oh, the pain that they have that I have the solution to is, and that's what that is. So you can look ahead, you can put this on pause and work on it, but we're going to talk a little bit more about it before you go ahead and put it on pause. What is the pain that your idea is addressing? And what is your potential customer's biggest pains? They're going to have lots of them, but what are their top 3? And then you're going to write down those 3 top pains from their perspective, not from your perspective, but from their perspective. What do they want? What don't they know about their about that pain or whatever goes into the solution for that pain? And then based on that, the next slide is, what is your solution? And you're going to ask yourself, what is the product, how does your product or service help them in that? So for example, how does it help them be happier, feel better, have more leisure, create more income, reduce expenses, be environmentally responsible, be socially responsible? And how does that relate to your why statement that you created in class 1? You're going to be writing down these answers. Again, this is all in your EM2 workbook. First question, it's the second part of the first question. What is your solution to these pains? And that's in your workbook. Okay, so that said, you can either put it on pause, this recording on pause, and answer those, or you can wait till after recording and work on it. Either one, whatever works for you, it's going to be part of your homework regardless. The next slide is, how does your, this is where things start to get overwhelming or can get overwhelming for people. So we're going to, again, iterative, so we're going to go into these basic categories, and then in a later class, we're going to go much deeper into each of these categories. But for now, I want you to understand all the moving parts for your business model. And right now we're focusing on the target market, your market research, what do you need to find out about your customers, about your competition, to know how you fit in and how you can talk about yourself, how you can authentically report and promote yourself. All right, so that said, how does understanding your market help you? What does the market say about your idea? How do you apply research to find out what you need to know about your industry to get started? Is there a market for your product or service? And what is the competition doing? What info do you need to collect for your market research? So that's essentially what this is all about. And knowing how to conduct market research is going to be exceedingly important in building a successful business plan. So knowing how to conduct your market research is going to be extremely important and helpful. Now there are two different types of customers, customer categories. So you have primary, and you have secondary. They're called other things like, let's focus on these two. So primary and secondary customers. Who do you think will be interested in your product or your service? That would be your primary customers. And who would you go after, like the low-hanging fruit? So within that, who is going to be the easiest customers for you to bring on board first, because we want you to start getting some momentum and showing the world and showing yourself and your stakeholders that this idea is actually working. So what's that going to look like for you? Examples of primary and secondary customers would be, well, a primary customer, let's say you're in retail. One of my companies was in retail. Well, you know, the difference between primary and secondary, you know what, let's just use a simple example on that. And that's who you're going to be targeting as your primary customer. So it'd be like the equivalent of, you know, for Valentine's Day, and you have a candy store. Well, primary customers are going to be people interested in Valentine's Day, and they're interested in chocolate. So, or they could potentially be interested in purchasing chocolate from you. That's a primary customer. Secondary customers are people that just like chocolate and they'll come in. All right. Others are, you know, we can use the example of the water bottle and refillable. So a target customer, you can define the target customer to be whomever you want for the water bottle, but it would be single mommies, 30 to 40-year-old range. I'm making it up. Okay, so if that's your target customer, okay, great. Now your secondary or primary market, your secondary market is going to be men in the same age group, or it's going to be married women, or it's going to be children, or those are all potential secondary markets. The more you understand about your customer, the easier it is to attract them to your business. How to best get them into your customer's shoes. Here's some. We're going to go over some ideas in a minute. Um, but first, let's talk about creating a customer profile. And this is also in your EM 2, the second question, customer profiles. So on slide number 8, customer profile categories, there are two major categories, and I'll explain the difference between the two and what they mean and all that. And this is going to be your target customers. So there's there are two types of customer profile categories. There's B2B and B2C. B2B is when you make a product or a service for other businesses to either resell or to use inside their own company. And B2C are companies, or when you have a company that deals directly with the general public, and they'll purchase your product, like you make newspapers and the general public buys your newspaper, or you make water bottles and customers will buy your water bottle in retail stores or whatever it is. Okay, now B2B would be your law firm for other companies, or you make a product for Whole Foods, and Whole Foods then sells it or uses it within their own company. Those would be examples of B2B and B2C. Okay, so that said, let's move to slide 9 and understanding your customer, what I was saying a moment ago is essentially the more you understand them, the easier it is for you to market to them. And how best to understand them is to read what they read, or talk with them, or listen to them, survey them. You can run focus groups. Focus groups are groups of people that get together and say, okay, everybody in this group, I want you to talk about this water bottle, and what do you like about this water bottle? And what could we do better? Or what do you think about the price point, and so on? Those are focus groups, and the group of people says, well, this is what we like, and this is what we don't like, and this is how much we're willing to pay, and this is what we can use it for. That's a focus group. And then you can also observe them and what they do. And also, you can do all of this for your competition. So we just talked about customers, and we went through that fairly quickly with you. But you also can do this with your competition. You have primary competition and you have secondary competition. Primary competition, let's go back to the Valentine's Day chocolate store. So you have customers coming in for chocolate for Valentine's Day. Now competitors are other chocolate stores. Primary competitors are other chocolate stores. Now secondary competitors would be, let's say, florists, where your target customer can come in for chocolate, or they can buy flowers for Valentine's Day. Primary and secondary. So, the more you know about your competition, the better, and why. Well, to find out what you can find out from your competitors is going to be exceedingly helpful for you. So, what they're successful at, and you can learn from that. If you have competition, it's a great thing. And what they're missing or not successful at, it can be how you distinguish yourself or differentiate yourself from your competitors, and how you might follow their model. So having competition is probably a good thing, especially if it's primary competition, because there's so many ways you can find out about what they do well, what they don't do well, and you can position yourself that way. To compare yourself with your competitors' strengths and weaknesses, with your own strengths and weaknesses, is golden for your company and for you. And then you're going to write down your competitive advantage over your top 3 competitors. That's going to be part of your homework. It's going to be in your Entrepreneur's Manual, question number 3, assessing the competitive landscape. If you don't know your competitors' info, that's fine. I don't expect you to know it at this stage of putting your business together. But spend this time, and you can put this recording on pause or wait till afterwards, and then spend time writing out how you're going to find out, or what you need to find out about your competitors. Things like, you can look at specialty news sites, you can look at industry associations, LinkedIn groups, Twitter, industry events, free webinars, You can look at white papers that are written by the vendors or suppliers. You could talk to the competition if you can't find anything. You can go to the competitor's store or shop or office and say, hey, I'm a student or I'm starting a new company and I would love to talk to you. Don't worry, I'm not going to be in your market. I'm just interested in learning more about your business. You'd be surprised with how many people are willing to talk to you about that. And you could talk to their customers or the customers. There's a guy who you may have heard of. His name is Sam Walton. He started Walmart. And you can think what you want to think about Walmart. It's a great company. It's a terrible company, whatever you want to think about it. But what we can all agree with is how amazingly fast he grew his company. He wrote a book in, I think it was the 1980s or 90s before he died, about how he built his company and how it became so successful. And he was talking about, if I remember right, he was talking about how he started his first company in Arkansas, his first store in Arkansas, uh, and he went to his competitors, which at that time was Kmart. And he went into Kmart's and he was talking to the people at Kmart's, and he was talking to customers, he was talking to salespeople, he went all the way up to the VPs, to the store managers, blah, blah, blah. And he just interviewed them and talked. And he looked at their displays, he looked at their pricing, he looked at the layouts of their stores, and he learned about how Kmart worked, and what worked about Kmart and what didn't work about Kmart. An argument could be made that Sam Walton knew more about Kmart than Kmart knew about Kmart. He was so good at it that he grew his company so quickly, and he just figured out what Kmart did well and what they didn't do well. And he had one business model called Pile It High and Sell It Low. And this is in the 1950s, so this is before any other retailer was doing this. Pile it high and sell it low. He saw what Kmart wasn't doing, and he said there's a real opportunity. So he bought truckloads of laundry liquid, and he sold it at a discount to get people into his store, so people would see these huge piles of laundry liquid as they walked in, and they were like, oh my God, everything here is inexpensive. I got to look and see what else they have in the store. And that brought the people into his stores. And so by the time Kmart had even heard of Walmart, they had, I don't know, 75 or 100 stores around the country. And by that point, it was too late. Walmart went like this, and Kmart came down. And Kmart could not catch up with Walmart by that time. And it all started with Sam Walton understanding his competitor, Kmart in this case, better than Kmart knew about Kmart themselves. Okay, great. So I want you to review your competitive landscape, which is question number 3 in your EM2, Entrepreneur's Manual number 2, section 2. All right. Next topic is slide 11, barriers to entry. What are barriers to entry? Essentially, a barrier to entry, we've all heard it before, but maybe some of you aren't really sure what it means. Well, barrier to entry is basically how difficult is it for competitors to knock you off or to compete against you. So the more difficult you make it for competitors to build a solution to your company, the more attractive it is for investors, for you, and for customers to want to join you. So intellectual property or things like patents or trademarks or um, uh, things like that, or copyrights is another one. So then, you have a leader on the market. We have 5 million customers already, that's a market lead. Our branding, the personality of your business, we're going to talk a lot about that, not today, about what is the brand of your company. And that could be a powerful barrier to entry depending on your company. Your customer base, what types of people. I'm working with single mommies over the age of 30, and I'm the only one addressing them, and they're only interested in what I have to offer because I'm one of them, or whatever it is. And then the team you build around you. I've got the world's smartest people on X, and they're on my team. And people That's one of my barriers because I don't have, there are, the smarter people out there don't exist on that topic. Those would be potential barriers to entry. So how many of you have a first of kind idea? Why are first of kind ideas really rough? I've had 2 or 3 of them in my 7 companies. They can be really rough. It's exciting. On one hand, you could say, hey, nobody else has thought of this idea. On the other hand, they can be a pain in the ass if you're not careful. Because your customers, there are many reasons, but one of the reasons is that your customers aren't used to shopping or purchasing or acquiring things the way your business is doing it. So it requires them to rewire the way they think. Some of them, most of them, are not going to have the patience to put the energy into making that happen. Therefore, that is going to be on you to make happen. And that's going to cost you money. It's going to take you time. And we call it advertising. We're going to have to do events. We're going to have to do blah, blah, blah to get people to start saying, oh, this is, instead of this, it's got to be like that. So there are first of kind businesses out there, but most of them fail. And most of them fail because they don't have anybody to follow. Wouldn't you rather be Facebook instead of MySpace? Or Boston Market versus, do you remember these companies, by the way? MySpace and Boston Market, Netscape, Napster, these are all companies that fell apart. MySpace, you remember MySpace? Now, again, Facebook came behind them. Now, MySpace created a basic market for what Facebook stepped into in their own way of doing things. Boston Market, same thing. They created a fast-growing company. They got tons of investors, but they're still around. They haven't gone bankrupt, but as far as I know. You know, they're a skeleton of what they used to be. So a lot of the reasons why these guys failed was because the market wasn't ready for them, or they didn't understand how to shop or use their product or service. So when you have a good idea and you think nobody's thought of it, there's usually 2 or 3 reasons why nobody else is doing it. One is it's a bad idea. 2 is that it is a first of a kind and nobody's thought of it, which is exceedingly rare or unlikely. And the third is that it's too small of a market. So you have a great idea, but it's the amount of business you're going to get out of it is like this. It's only like a very, very small amount. Those are usually the top main ideas. Those are the main ideas as to why nobody is doing what you do. There are millions and millions of people out there right now coming up with ideas. So for you to think that you have an idea that nobody else has thought of is exceedingly unlikely. Okay, so that said, barriers to entry. In your workbook, question number 4, you're going to be answering these questions. You're going to list out your barriers to entry, enter your market, and what advantages you have over others. And this brings us this brings us to your pitch and what you'll design to get investors and others, other forms of support for the launch phase of your business. We're doing this very early stage with you. We're talking about your pitch to get you to start thinking about, okay, these are the moving parts that are going to go into your pitch. All right, so the next slide is your pitch rough draft. And here there are 5 things that you're going to start thinking about. There are many more things that go into your pitch, but these are the 5 things that I want you to start thinking about now that are going to be dropping into your presentations. What is the pain? What is your solution? This is from your target market's perspective, of course. And why is it compelling for your customer? What is your special sauce? What is that thing that nobody else is doing, or you're doing it in a way that's really interesting or unique or special? And why will it beat out your competitors? You're going to draft this pitch in your workbook, which is essentially number 5 in your workbook, EM2, which is what's your pitch? And in class, you're going to be sharing it and getting feedback from the professor and from students. So I want you to start working on this and start thinking about how this is going to look for you and your business. Okay. the next slide, slide 13, is where is your passion? We're going to go into quite a bit. I'm going to be checking in with you regularly about on this and your passion, because this is what you're going to need to be able to deliver to building your team, raising money, getting vendors, getting customers. All of that is going to come from your passion, and your passion comes from why you're doing what you're doing. You need to remind yourself, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing this, especially when we get into numbers and financials and things that are boring for a lot of people. Reminding yourself, I need to understand that so I can work on my passion. Got it. All right, I'm going to keep going. Okay, good. So are you still excited? Are you still passionate about your vision? And how can you show that to us? We're going to be doing this in class, and you're going to be demonstrating your idea and your energy behind it and so on. So I want you to start thinking about it now, because it'll be coming up certainly in class and ongoingly in this course. All right, we're going to go deep into the next slide, into financials. Financials are huge, and we're breaking it into 4 major areas, but today we're only covering the top 2, which are expenses and expenditures and break-even. At a later class, we're going to do cash flow and capital to start. So right now, we're just going into expenses and expenditures and break-even. Again, this is an iterative class, so we're going to be bringing stuff in, introducing it, figuring out how it all fits together. Then we go deeper into everything, and we go through the course like that. All right. The purpose of this is to begin an overview of your basic numbers that you're going to need to know before you start. Let's define some of the terms. So the most basic distinction in numbers for business are expenses and expenditures. Let's start with that. What is an expense? What is an expenditure? An expenditure is a one-time purchase for your business. An expenditure is a one-time purchase. You only buy it once. An expense, however, is different. An expense is ongoing to keep your business running ongoing. It's rent, it's payroll, it's benefits, it's utilities. Those are expenses to keep your business running. Expenditures are one-time purchase, like a delivery van. It's one-time purchases of building my website, getting my legal corporation set up, things like that are one-time purchases. You can have an attorney working on other things ongoingly for you. That becomes an expense. But the one-time purchase of setting up your corporation is an expenditure. All right. Let's start to calculate your cash needs by identifying some expenditures. What are some examples? Like I said, well, here's some. Furniture, equipment, a factory. Those are all one-time purchases. I want you in, this is going to be both in your EM2 number 6, which is your expenditures. You're going to be listing out your top 10 of them. But it's also in your financial template. You're going to be dropping it in there also. So your financial template, there are a bunch of tabs at the bottom of your Excel spreadsheet. The one that says expenditures for startups, that one. Open that one, and you're going to put in the same 10 or so, or come up with as many as you can think of. And if you don't have an exact dollar, put in a range or leave it blank for now. Put flag and say, hey, I have no idea how much a factory is going to cost, but you know what? I need to research it. Or I have an idea. I need a delivery van, but it's probably going to be 10 grand, 15 grand. I have no idea how much a brand new delivery van is going to cost. Or I know exactly how much that desk and computer is going to cost me to open my office. It's going to cost me $3,000, and you put that in. Whatever it's going to be for you. Those are one-time purchases, expenditures. You're going to put together your top 10, and you're going to, again, do it in your EM2, question number 6, and also in your financial template in the expenditures tab. Now, let's go into expenses. Expenses, again, are ongoing things that you pay to keep your business running: rent, payroll, utilities, and benefits like healthcare and so on. Those are all parts of expenses. You do them every month because it's part of running your business. You need employees, or you need a place to work, or whatever. There are two types of expenses. There are fixed and there are variable. Fixed are steady month in, month out. Rent, salaries tend to be fixed. Rent is the same every month. Salaries tend to be the same every month or every year or every quarter or every day or whatever it is. Variable are those that fluctuate based on how much business you're doing. So we're selling tons of stuff. So our electricity bill went up because we're making so much stuff. That would be variable. Or phone. Our phone expenses went up because we are servicing our clients, or we're generating more business, whatever it is. Those are variable. Now, before we move from the slide, I want to briefly talk about break-even next. And then at a later date, like I said, we're going to be going into cash flow and startup capital. So again, cash flow and startup capital we're going to be talking about at a later date. But now we're going to go into break-even and what goes into break-even. Next slide, 15, is break-even. Break-even is very simply where your gross profit pays for all your expenses, not your expenditures, but your expenses. So what it costs to run your business day in, day out, rent, payroll, salary, whatever that adds up to, how much you sell, the profit of that can pay for what it costs for you to run. That's break-even. What role does it have in your financial plan? Why does hitting break-even what does it mean to your business and to you personally? What numbers do you need to know to calculate your break-even? Well, you need to know, we're going to go into all of that. You're going to need to know all your monthly expenses. I don't expect you to know them now, but I need you to start thinking about them. And you're going to be refining it as we go through the course. Oh yeah, there's another expense I forgot about. Let me add that. Or hey, let me change because I now know the number of this expense. Let me see what happens to my numbers now. So we're going to be doing that throughout the course with you. So you're going to need to know all your monthly expenses to figure out your break-even. You're going to need to know the price of your product or service. You're also going to need to, I'm changing the slides, I'm changing the slide to 16, but I'm going to explain it in a moment. And then the third thing is you're going to need to know the number of units to service the jobs that you will sell per month. That's a busy sentence. The number of units or service jobs you're going to need to sell every month. All right, well, let's take a look at slide 16 because some people are visual and sometimes this is helpful for people that need to see what this looks like to better understand visualizing break-even. Okay, so this is a relatively busy slide. In blue, we have years 1, 2, 3, and year 0 through year 4. That's time going across the x-axis. On the y-axis, you have volume of sales. Now, you have a bunch of lines. You have 1, 2, 3 lines going through this graph. The BEP line is break-even point. Break-even point. So that is how much you have to sell to create break-even. Now, the break-even point is where the two lines intersect. And I'm going to go over the other lines. So the horizontal line is called your fixed cost line. That's rent, it's salaries, it's things that don't change over time. So you're always paying the same salaries, you're always paying the same rent, whatever it is, okay, for your business. Then you have variable costs, which does not have a line. That's going to be phone, electricity, utilities, whatever changes based on the volume of your sales. You add those two together, the fixed and the variable, and that's your total cost line, which is that other line that intersects with the BEP. So one more line, and then I'm going to stop with the lines, and that's your sales line. You have your sales volume, which is the third line at the very top. It says sales line. If you follow that and look, on year zero, it starts at zero, and over time it grows because you're selling more. Where it intersects is your total sales line matches your total cost line. Now, let's take a look at what this means for you and your business. The next slide, 17, is calculating break-even. You have 3 steps to calculating break-even. This is easy to understand, but it's complicated to put together, so stick with me on this one. This is important. It's going to be coming up quite a bit with you in the rest of the course. Break-even and numbers. Okay, so the first one is coming up with your total monthly expenses. Remember in the previous slide, 16, where you had total cost line. That's what this is. It's your fixed and variable costs combined. What does that total up? Let's say you have a water bottle company and your total costs are going to be, I'm making it per month. We're going to do this monthly, total monthly. I've got rent, I got payroll, I got factory stuff, blah, blah, blah. I got $5,000 every month that I got to put out basically. Okay, fine. The second one is to come up with your average price point for this. Let's say you have 10 different water bottle types, but the average one is going to be X dollars. That's going to be the retail of X dollars, $10. Where I'm going to sell this to other businesses or institutions for $10. Okay, great. So $10 is how many bottles you're going to need. Is what you're going to sell the bottles for. And then step 3 is, well, how many of those do you have to sell to cover your expenses? Minus cost of goods. Well, what does that mean? Okay, that's a complicated mouthful. So number of units, how many of these bottles do I need to sell to cover at $10 a pop to cover $5,000 in monthly expenses? Now, if you put your math together, you could say, well, I need to sell 500 at $10. That gives me 5,000. That covers my expenses. You need to sell 500 bottles. Well, that's not right because there's one piece that's missing, and that's cost of goods sold. So cost of goods sold is, well, how much does it cost for me to make this bottle? The cost of goods that it costs for you to make this bottle. So I'm making it up and saying it cost me $1.50 to make this bottle. $1.50, and I'm selling it for $10. Therefore, my gross profit is going to be $8.50. Not $10, $8.50. So how many at $8.50 do I have to sell to cover $5,000 a month? That's the question you need to ask yourself. I'm pulling up my calculator so I can put it in math for you. So it's 5,000 divided by 850 is one way of doing it. There's multiple ways of doing it. I'm going to show that to you on my calculator there. So you need to sell 590 roughly bottles to break even. 590 bottles every month at $8.50 to hit break even. That's the formula, and that's how it works. Now that's easy to understand for a for a product-based company, but for a service-based company, what does that mean and how does that work? Well, okay, let's take a look at that. If you're a service-based company, let's say you're a law firm, that's service. So you're servicing clients. Well, instead of selling bottles, you're selling attorney time, hours. So to your customer, you send an attorney and you charge $100 an hour for the attorney, but you're paying the attorney $75 an hour or whatever it is, $50 an hour. Let's say $75 an hour. So therefore, your gross profit is $25 an hour. Well, to keep the lights on in your law firm and to keep things in the rent and all that, let's say it costs you $5,000. So at $25 an hour, how many attorney hours do you need to sell to cover $5,000 a month? Well, $20,000 worth of attorney hours. Uh, no, I'm sorry, I'm doing this wrong. Well, oh, sorry, let me quote my calculator again. Um, but basically, you're going to need to be calculating at 5,000 divided by $25 an hour. So you need to sell, sorry, my math is way off there. So you need to sell $200, 200 hours of attorney time at $25 an hour to cover $5,000 a month in monthly average expenses. Okay, so you need to sell 200 hours. And we came up with that by this formula in step 3. The number of units times the gross profit equals expenses. Well, if you know what your expenses are and you know your gross profit, so it's then just the formula changes to being expenses divided by gross profit. So expenses are, in the attorney example, are $5,000 divided by 25 is 200. That's how many units or 200 lawyer hours a month you need to sell to break even in that example. Okay, whew, that's a lot. So for your business, you're going to need to figure what that looks like. So in the beginning, it might be inexpensive for you to, hey, I'm running it out of my apartment, out of my dad's garage, whatever it is. And I don't have a lot of utilities, but you need to add them up and you need to figure out, well, what's it going to cost? And if I'm paying myself the minimum, what do I need to pay myself? What do I need to pay to have somebody join me? What do I need to pay to have social media done? What do I need to pay for the delivery van to run on gas or whatever it is, inspection fees, whatever it costs regularly to run my business. And then you add all that up and then you say, well, how many units do I have to sell to make that happen? That becomes your break-even point. And then, not now, but a further question, the next question will be at a later class, well, how long is it going to take you to get there? So if you start at 0 today and you need to sell 200 lawyer hours to break even, how long is it going to take you to get to go from 0 to 200 lawyer hours in a month? And that becomes a marketing and a team building and a blah, blah, blah question. We're going to go through all that with you to figure out what that's going to look like. That's how this works. Okay, we just covered a lot with you. We're going to slide 18, and we're going to review what we just covered. And by the way, before we go into what we reviewed, reviewing what we just covered, I'm going to have you check in with your passion again. And where's your passion now? What needs adjusting to get the passion back in the conviction and the adjustability back into your business model? And you're going to write that down, and that's going to be in your EM2, number 7, your passion, conviction, and adaptability question. I ask that because, especially with numbers, people are like, oh man, yeah, right? Okay, what's going to remind you why you're doing this is, oh yeah, the impact, the difference, what I'm doing for my communities, what I'm doing for my customers, what I'm doing for, that's why I'm doing this. Yes, okay, and it'll keep you going. And all right, I got to understand this. I don't have to live it and do it every day, but I have to understand how it works and how it fits because I need to make these decisions going forward, what works and what doesn't work, and I need to understand my numbers to be able to do that. Fine, good, I get that, let's keep going. Great, so that's what that means. So slide 18, what did we just cover? We just covered the pain and your solution to your target customer's pain and your solution to your target customer's pain. We call that customer profiling, but then who's your target going to be? Who's your primary target? What's your low-hanging fruit? And the same for competition. Who's your primary competitors? Who is your secondary competitors? But let's focus on the primary for now. Market intelligence is basically market research. What do I need to find out from my competitors, my target markets, and how big of a market is it, and what are the competitors doing? How am I different? What are the what are the price points? Blah blah blah. And then the basic, I think we had 5 components to your pitch, your rough draft pitch. Those are the first 5 things that you're going to need to cover in your pitch. Let's start figuring out what those are going to be and putting them in. And then how difficult is it for somebody to knock me off? Is this going to be super easy for somebody to say, great idea, let me do it too? Or no, way, man, this took, they have a patent, they have, they have 5 million customers, whatever it is, it's going to take years to do that. So that's all barriers to entry. And then finally, financial basics. What are the 2 most important numbers for you to know, which are expenses and expenditures? And then the other thing is break-even analysis. How does it work? I don't expect you to identify it exactly now, but I want you to understand how it works because we're going to be going much deeper into that as we go through this course. Okay, we just covered a lot. That's what we did in this class. Let's now go over what your assignments are going to be for this class. You're going to, if you haven't done it already, this is all in your workbook, your EM2, the assignments. You're going to identify your target customer and their profiles. Who are they and how will you find them and get in front of them and so on. Right? I only want you to focus on your primary customers and lowest hanging fruit ones. And what are those up to top 5 pains, 3 to 5 pains that you have a solution to? So I don't know, if you're Facebook, it's, how do I keep in touch with so many people in my life, in my community? Well, Facebook has an answer to that. That would be one pain. If you have a law firm for corporations, it would be, how do, their pain is making sure that your customers or those companies incorporate with the right legal umbrella. Okay, that would be one of their pains. They don't know what kind of legal structure they need. That's a pain. And then what are your solutions to those pains? Well, if you're Facebook, hey, a quick, easy click and point and boom, you're ready to go kind of thing. Or if you're a law firm, hey, you just hire us and we take care of all that stuff for you. We work tirelessly to make sure you have exactly what you need in a legal structure to run your company day in, day out. Okay, so that's the first component of your assignment. The next one is the same thing for your competitors. The direct and indirect, or the primary and secondary, those are synonymous. So competitors, up to 5 competitors. Who are they? Primary. And if you don't have 5, that's okay. Come up with 2 or 3. Or if you don't know who they are, just flag them and say, hey, I need to find out who my competitors are so I can answer this question. And then how do you define, based on knowing what you know about your competitors, well, how am I better than them? Or how am I different than them? Again, what's MySpace versus Facebook? MySpace, I think, is still around, versus Facebook, and what are the advantages of both? Or let's say you're Facebook, they had to do that for MySpace. You're going to refine your pitch based on those answers, and then you're going to start drafting your expenses and expenditures. Expenses are what it costs to run your business monthly, and expenditures are those one-time purchases. How much do I need to buy? What do I need to buy as a one-time thing? A delivery van, a factory, legal structure, or website? What is it that I need to purchase to get my business up and running? Okay, the next one is slide 21. Is you're going to start draft. You're going to, in your financial template, on the expenses tab, you're going to fill in your monthly expenses and say, hey, as best as I know, these are what they're going to be. And I don't know exactly what my rent is going to be, but it's roughly from here to here. Or I do know exactly what my rent is going to be. Or I have no idea. I need to find out and put a number in, and you're going to flag that so that you can go back to it. And the same for your break-even. Well, okay, you're going to add it up and get an early read on this and say, hey, I need to, I think I'm going to sell my water bottles at $10, or I think I'm going to have my law firm charge $100 an hour, or whatever it's going to be, right? Whatever your product or service company is going to be offering. You're also, and then number 11 here on slide 21 is drafting expenditures. It'll be that one-time purchase that you have for your business. You're going to add all those up in your expenditures tab in your your financial template. And then lastly, you're going to be playing Genesis, level 2. You're going to play it through and you're going to learn about some of the distinctions, and then you're going to come to class and you're going to get feedback from the professor and from your colleagues in class about, hey, these are your expenses. Well, did you think about this? Or how about that? Or, hey, this is how you can find out the answer to this, and so on. So that's all going to happen. And then in class 3, which I'm very excited to meet with you on in the very near future, um, is it sustainable? So what's your idea? Is it going to work? And is it sustainable? So class 3, when you're ready for it, when you'll be doing it, we'll be covering how that's going to be possible for you and your business. I'm very much looking forward to seeing you in class 3.